52% of Pennsylvania Democrats say, I don't know that Fetterman's a Democrat anymore. John Thune says, come join us. Is that even a possibility in your mind?
No, that's not. I'm a Republican. I'm not a Republican.
Oops.
I mean, I'm a Democrat.
MAGA loyalist, Democrat in name only, and all-around controversial figure John Fetterman appeared on Chris Cuomo's show, where he ended up making what could easily be one of the biggest Freudian slips anyone has heard in a political interview. We're going to watch the moment where John Fetterman actually says the words, I am a Republican, during his conversation with Chris Cuomo. I also want to break down exactly what happened, explain why this moment caught so much attention, and share my own thoughts on it. So let's jump right in and take a look together.
It's like, is it really necessary to force the dude to say, fifth, 111 times? Those aren't great optics, but hold them accountable, absolutely, and point out some of these things. But overall,
if you're about accountability, I don't know how it begins and ends with Tony Fauci. It makes no sense to me. And look, is he guilty of hubris? Who isn't? Especially in that room, Senator. The idea that Tony Fauci is distinctive in a room full of senators about people who are, smelling their own scent a little too much. Let me ask you something about politics while I have you, though. You've got problems in the party and your perception heading into an election in Pennsylvania. 52% of Pennsylvania Democrats say, I don't know that Fetterman's a Democrat anymore. John Thune says, come join us. Is that even a possibility in your mind?
No, that's not. I'm a Republican. I'm not a Republican.
Oops.
I mean, I'm a Democrat.
You made news there for a second, Senator.
No. I'm a Democrat. I just said that in an early. I've had op-eds. I just had an interview earlier today saying I'm not becoming a Republican. The Republican. Trump liquidated a couple. Really good Republicans. Overall. And it's like overall. Among Democrats, that's reflective of a lot of just misinformation. As a Democrat that votes 90% as a Democrat line, but I'm very popular around Republicans, too. It's really, there's really no explanation overall, but I've been a guy standing with Israel.
Well, there's your answer. John Fetterman says there really isn't any overall explanation, but then the very next thing he says is, I stand with Israel. That right there is the explanation, John Fetterman. You answer the question yourself without even realizing it. In your own words, make your position perfectly clear.
And strikes.
Standing with Israel is one thing. Standing with Bibi Netanyahu is something else. Do you believe that the American presidency and the Israeli prime minister should be as closely aligned as they are? Do you really believe that America and Bibi Netanyahu's strategic interests are aligned?
No. If you want to go there, if you want to criticize, sides that are in a war, I'm going to criticize Hamas. I'm going to criticize Iran. I'm not going to criticize Netanyahu because he's the democratic leader of Israel. I'm always going to stand with Israel through that too. The Democratic Party becomes very quick and easy to criticize or blame Israel and a genocidal state, or they're the aggressor. That's absolute bullshit. You know that, and I know that Israel was doing what was necessary. Send those people home. Don't take hostages. Don't attack Israel the way they have. Now, disarm. Now, like a peace. That's how war really works. The one side has to surrender, and now Israel's not allowed to prosecute that to the end right now. So Iran is the bad guy. Hamas is the bad guy. America, we're on the good side. And of course, Israel is too.
Right. My question is more about the specific politics of what got us into Iran and who convinced the president that this was a good idea. And it's way too simplistic to say, well, the regime can never have a nuke. We haven't done anything since this war started that makes it any less likely that they get a nuke. And all we know for sure is they hate us more than ever. And every time we hear we've reduced their capabilities, John, they reach out and touch us in the region, just like today.
No, it does make it less likely. What would guarantee that they were going to have a nuclear bomb is if they didn't bomb Iran last year in June, Midnight Hammer, they definitely would have been on course to build a nuclear bomb. That's a fact. I'm not going to criticize the Obama deal, but that wasn't clearly what's going to work. American presidents have been trying to deal with this for 47 years, and they've been unsuccessful.
You think that we're in a better situation now than we were under the JCPOA?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. We've wasted most of their military. We've killed their leadership, and we blew up a lot of their nuclear facilities. They're in a much better space for sure.
Really?
Absolutely.
Because now they hate us and will do anything to show it, right? They have new leadership.
Now they hate us. They've
always hated us. But you've definitely boldened them up, right? That's why they're starting to extend the hostilities, right? That's why they're getting their proxies involved in ways that they weren't before this. All I'm saying is it's easy to say the regime sucks.
That's not true. That's not
Nobody's
true
going to disagree.
It's not. Hamas has not been activated. Their leadership getting picked off by the Israel. I fully support that. Hezbollah actually effectively was begging for another ceasefire. And Houthis, they're just a bunch of crappy pirates. They can fire off a rocket every now and then. You know, what's truth is true. Iran has been significantly diminished, and that's a much better thing. And now I think it's appropriate what's done in overall. And, you know, like you can agree or disagree, but overall, Iran has been the reason why that brought us to this point. It's not because America did something wrong. It's like America, I think, was forced to deal with this regime.
So Fetterman argues that we're better off now than we were under the JCPOA. Never mind the fact that gas prices keep rising, the cost of everyday living continues to climb, and more than $100 billion has already been spent on this war. None of that seems to matter to him. Fetterman also refuses to criticize Netanyahu, yet he still calls himself a Democrat instead of a Republican. The reality is that most Democrats do not support Netanyahu. I even checked the polling, and among Republicans, Netanyahu's approval rating is only around 45%. For Republicans under the age of 50, that number falls to roughly 30%. Fetterman either doesn't realize or simply doesn't care that he's standing on the side that fewer and fewer people support.
I hope in the not too distant future, but hope isn't a strategy either. Senator John Fetterman, I appreciate you taking on the questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
So Fetterman insists he's not a Republican and says he's still a Democrat. But whenever he appears on shows like this, when does he ever spend time talking about the issues that matter most to Democratic voters? Almost everything he says seems to come back to Israel and his unwavering support for it. He never appears willing to criticize Benjamin Netanyahu. I rarely hear Fetterman talk about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, rising gas prices, the cost of healthcare, expensive prescription drugs, affordable college, infrastructure, or the many other issues that Democrats, and plenty of Americans, including many Republicans, care about every single day. Instead, he keeps focusing on Israel, praising its actions, and defending policies that many people strongly disagree with. He even argues that Donald Trump's war, which a large majority of Americans oppose, is better than the JCPOA that Democratic President Barack Obama put in place. Yet Fetterman continues to say, "I'm not leaving the Democratic Party. I'm not a Republican." After hearing him accidentally say, "I'm a Republican," at the beginning of the interview, it almost feels like that Freudian slip revealed what he really thinks. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe John Fetterman is still a Democrat? I'm not even talking about being a progressive, because he's clearly far from that. Do you think he's at least a centrist Democrat? Or does he come across as someone who's fully aligned with MAGA? That's certainly the impression I get. I honestly can't think of many people outside the MAGA movement who defend Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel with the same level of enthusiasm that John Fetterman does. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. And one more question. Do you think Chris Cuomo should have challenged Fetterman more directly by asking how he can call himself a Democrat when so many of his positions seem out of step with what most Democrats believe? Let me know your opinion below.